I've talked in past videos about the experience I've had as a father and a parent, and the things it's taught me, and some frameworks and concepts of how to think. And one of the things I'm very big on is, allowing my son to always ask why. I want him to always ask why. I want him to ask himself. I want him to ask me. I want him to ask everybody, and not just take things for granted, but develop that muscle and build that habit of asking questions and thinking and trying to see all sides of things. And the more I think about being a parent and kind of going through that process and having, I only have one son, but having to teach somebody, the values and the things in life that are important, and how to deal with difficult situations, and just all the lessons you want to teach, you start to recognize that a big part of the value that's to be had in being a parent, certainly a big part of it is raising hopefully a good, well-adjusted, happy, hopefully, good person. But it's in so many ways, it's for you as the parent too, if you approach it the right way. Each lesson you teach is teaching you as well, right? Every value you try and instill in them, if you approach it the right way, it forces you to reevaluate yourself and say, hey, I'm teaching this value about how to be a good person, or how to help people, or to do the right thing. But am I actually doing it, right? I'm teaching him these lessons about, you got to manage your temper, you got to keep patient. But am I actually doing it? So it's this mirror that gets put in front of you constantly to self-evaluate and see how you're performing, right? I mean, certainly you could talk out of both sides of your mouth, and the saying of do as I say, not as I do. As a parent, you could do that. It's just I don't believe it's the optimal way. I think using it as that opportunity to challenge yourself, and to hold yourself accountable is the right way to do it. So I do that a lot, and I find that I've, in many ways, this kind of journey that I've been on to try and think better, it's connected a lot, coincided a lot with my son, right? It's probably been about 5 or 6 years. He was born, he'll be 7 this coming September. So I think as I started to do that more, that's part of what opened my eyes to trying to be more self-aware. And what's great about it is you see instances of it play out all the time. And, it's everything I said is true, right? That mirror that's held up, the way as you teach, you have to observe it. But what's also good about it is, in many ways, and I know this fades over time, and there's nature versus nurture and all that, but in many ways, when they're young, there's such a pureness there that when you interact with them, when you teach them something and they're processing it and working through it, or just, you see them acting in certain ways or behaving in certain ways, it's a way to observe in somewhat of a controlled environment how people think, how the mind can work, when it's truly acting in its purest sense, right? Before the biases kick in, before you started to develop these identity issues or these really strong views that guide the way you think, you get a better glimpse into just how the mind works, which in some ways can lead you to how do you eventually develop those biases, right? You start to be very aware of that if you're teaching your kid in the way that I say, where you're trying to be observant and hold yourself accountable to it. So I'll give you an example. So obviously with the COVID coronavirus situation going on, it's been homeschooling here in New York as it has been in a lot of places. So, I'm very in tune with what my son's learning, and we kind of go through it together. And this past week or so, one of the lessons was around insects. So each day you'd learn about a different insect, and, things you'd expect. You read a book, you watch some videos, you draw some pictures of it, you write some facts you learned, all that type of stuff. And it was ladybugs, it was all different things. One of the days it was bees or wasps. It might have been wasps in particular, I forget exactly what it was, but it was in that vein. Which is interesting, right? Because there are, bees and wasps kind of have a reputation, or, in young kids. My son's 6. So it was interesting to watch him learn about them. And I believe it was wasps, because one of the things they learned is that wasps are, unlikely to bother you unless you really bother them. And, just learning a lot of the facts, which in some ways, I'm going to say the word humanize, which obviously for a wasp doesn't hold, but you'll understand what I mean. For my son, who's a little bit nervous and scared of things to begin with, and would have been afraid of a wasp naturally, reading about it helps to humanize the wasp a little bit. It helps him to understand, like, oh, wow, the things they're doing, there's a purpose behind them. There's a reason for it. When they're protecting their nest, it's not just because they're trying to be mean and they want to hurt you. It's because they think you might be trying to hurt its family or its queen or whatever it is. So it starts to give somebody perspective on that, right? And you learn about their mentality and their behavior and how and when they sting, and all the different threats they have, and when they are flying around, what they're doing with the flowers and it's just, you get a whole new perspective, whereas you might otherwise, if you didn't know any better, if you never learned about it, you just assume, hey, they're just evil. They're just out here to get us, pretty much. So it was cool. It was a cool thing to see, and he drew a picture of it, and it was really, really good. So some things to be learned there. Through that, and you start to understand, yeah, you humanize people, it means something. But the story doesn't end there. Literally that same day, we went outside, for recess. We were playing outside, and we have like a little screen room area, and a wasp flew into the screen room. And instantly, without hesitation, it just clicked on, and he was like, "Dad, kill it. Kill that wasp immediately." So I laughed a little bit, because it was funny to see the contrast of not just, an hour ago, you were learning and drawing pictures of wasps and all these cool things about them, and now you're like, murder it instantly, get rid of that wasp. So that was funny, so I pushed him on it, and I'm like, dude, we just learned about this, right? Like, they're not, if you don't bother it, it won't bother you. Like, we learned wasps are good and all the good things they do. And it was just really interesting to see in that moment of fear, right? Because that's what it was. It was fear. He understood intellectually. He understood the concept of wasps and that they were good. But when the rubber met the road, when there was a wasp right there, fear took over, and it overrode all rational thought. And he was almost like, I don't want to say he was gonna, have a panic attack, but he was worked up and demanding that I kill this wasp. So I didn't. I let the wasp get out, and he settled down and all those things. And I tried to talk to him about it a little bit, and understand it. And there wasn't a lot to it. And that's what maybe what I found most interesting. You contrast that to an adult in a situation where conceptually they know something to be such, but then they get emotionally charged in some way, and they get irrational, and the way they act is not in line with kind of the rational way to act. And you question them on that, and you get the things you would expect to get. You get defensiveness, you get, justifications, you get a kickback of, no, you're the problem, or you did this, or whatever. It was interesting because, as I mentioned, in my son's case, being as young as he is, that thought process isn't really there yet. So when you ask him, you're getting an honest response, and his honest response was more or less like, he scared me. Like, I just wanted him gone. I wanted him dead. It just, my cost benefit, he didn't say these words, but what I was hearing was like, my cost benefit analysis went off, and the risk of him stinging me was just too good. Like, everything else I knew wasn't enough to overcome that. And so it's an interesting window, I think, into trying to understand how people think, right? Not to get into the value side of it or whatever, into the debate in this video, we have in others, but you think of some of the racism issues that go on in the world today, and how people feel about different races and people that look different. And it's always interesting, because what you'll hear, like in conversation, in calm conversation, by and large, everybody's, I have no problem with anybody else. There's no issues. If you look different, I don't care if you're purple or yellow or black or green. It's all love. As long as you don't hurt me, I won't hurt you, right? It's the same thing. You read about these wasps, and yeah, you could be different. I get it. You got your place, I got mine. It's all love. It's all good. Until it meets you, until you come face to face with it, until, you're actually forced in real life to take the training wheels off and actually do it. Then all of a sudden there's all this racism in the world. And I think, a lot of it you can parallel back to this, of just the fear. And conceptually you can understand it, but these instincts come in. And what I'm trying to think about, obviously not there yet, is what's the mechanism to override that? How do I teach my son in that same situation to fall back into rational thought, to understand the risk, and to be wary if there is one, but to not forget everything he knows to be true, and not just let fear override everything. Because I think if you can start to figure that out and teach that, right, that maybe that's something you can scale and teach other people. So again, not a conclusion in this video so much as just, another interesting learning, and something that I value as a parent going through those experiences. It helps to give me more prompts and more checks and more things to wonder and think about.